So Pierce Barnett continues with his explanation of communication through these three components. We already discussed about coordination. Well, today I'm going to talk about coherence and mystery. So coherence is his term for accounting for the ways that we create narratives and stories about coordination. And he explains that it begins even as young as we are infants and babies, because we are constantly demanding stories of ways to make sense of what's around them and all of that, to explain things that are around them. And he talks about how we facilitate coordination through coherence. And what we're actually doing is we are staying in touch with the facts of life, or in other words, we are taking the facts in our lives, for example, birth, or like learning to ride a bike, or things like that, that we creating these stories and narratives to make it coherent, to make it to create meaning of what's happening in those facts. And so that's what he explains coherence to be. He also talks about how coherence is institutionalized in three specific ways that he mentions, and that is language. So language itself is a area of where coherence is formed, because we are using language, we're using words to create this coherence. Families is another one, that we create stories within that context. An example that he mentions is how we copy our parents, and how that coherence continues throughout generations. We tend to reiterate the same things our parents say to us, and when we become parents, we'll say those same things to our children. And then the third one he talks about is friendship, and the friendship patterns that we see and we create stories about as we create self-identity and the purposes of those friendships. So essentially, coherence is all about us telling the stories, and we're the storytellers of our lives, and how these facts play out throughout our lives and how we make stories about them. And the second concept that he talks about is mystery. Now, before talking about mystery, coherence is seen as a liberating thing from facts, because we're not just living in facts all the time. What we're doing is we're creating stories to make sense of those facts of our lives. And so when we talk about mystery, mystery is talking about how language and words specifically are often insufficient or inadequate to express certain things, certain facts, certain experiences. For example, a beautiful sunset. Words cannot necessarily describe those kinds of things. And so this is the mystery component or aspect of communication, that certain things are ineffable, or in other words, they're not expressible. And so this comes to the point where mystery talks about how we talked about coherence can liberate us, right, from facts, but in mystery, language can also constrain us, and like I said, not sufficient to express certain things. And so he talks about how we can deal with mystery, and three ways that he talks about is first, or how we respond to mystery, is first, outrage, second, celebrating it, and third is what he talks about as a second, liberation. And so the first one is pretty self-explanatory. We can be discontent with that and be outraged and not be happy about mystery because we can't figure out how to express ourselves. And the second is celebration, so we can actually celebrate this ineffability because it creates sophistication, and it creates we can use our imagination more sophisticatedly. I don't know if that's a word, but anyhow. Um, and then the third part he talks about is the second liberation, and that is what he calls the ability for us to be able to use words as friends, that we kind of let go and kind of embrace what mystery is, because it holds a lot of suspense. It creates this kind of imaginative and fun aspect to language and to stories and to you know communication, really. And so with that, as we wrap this all together, coherence is a way we make sense of facts and we tell stories. Mystery, main point, talks about how words are not perfect, they're insufficient, and language can either free us as we are successfully coherent in our stories, and in mystery it can constrain us or limit us. And so that is what coherence and mystery is all about. Thank you. Bye.